how Musashi used emptiness to dominate not just battles, but thought itself. What if I told you that the greatest samurai in history, Miyamoto Musashi, had a secret that would break the brain of every modern overthinker? That there was a principle so simple, so devastatingly effective, that it could cut through your anxiety, your indecision, your spiral of self-doubt like a katana through silk. Most people know Musashi as the undefeated swordsman who fought over 60 duels and never lost. But far fewer understand the deeper reason behind his success, and it had nothing to do with technique. It was philosophical, it was existential, and it was deadly. Musashi's secret wasn't just in how he fought, it was in how he thought. Or more accurately, how he refused to overthink. He believed that clarity was not something you could arrive at through analysis, it was something you had to become. In his legendary text, The Book of Five Rings, he writes, "Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world." That one line destroys the modern ego. Because we do the opposite. We think heavily of ourselves, our image, our failures, our past, and shallowly of the world. We drown in our own thoughts while the present moment passes us by. Let's pause. Ask yourself, when was the last time you acted without hesitation, not out of recklessness, but because your mind and your body were in total alignment? That's what Musashi mastered, not just the art of the sword, but the art of non-resistance, the ability to move without the friction of thought. Overthinking is friction. It slows us down. It creates drag in the mind. And in battle, drag is death. But what about in life? How many opportunities have we missed? How many relationships, ideas, dreams, because we were waiting for certainty that never came?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Musashi's philosophy teaches us something radical. Certainty is not a prerequisite for action. And that's why overthinkers hate his secret. Because we've been told that good decisions come from careful calculation. But Musashi shows us that clarity comes from commitment. You act first with presence, with precision, and the truth reveals itself in motion. It's not blind impulsivity. It's trained intuition. It's what he called the void, a mental state where the thinking mind disappears and only the moment remains. I want to break this down in a way no one else does. We often think that overthinking is a sign of intelligence. But Musashi would argue the opposite. Overthinking is a symptom of misaligned intelligence. It's the intellect detached from instinct. It's the sword that never leaves the sheath because its wielder is too afraid to strike. And what happens then? You lose, not just in battle, but in life. You lose momentum. You lose time. You lose yourself. Because every moment you spend stuck in your head is a moment you've abandoned the present, and the present is the only place where life actually happens. Musashi wasn't just a warrior. He was a philosopher warrior. He saw combat as a mirror for life. Every duel was a test, not just of skill, but of presence. And he realized something that most of us miss. When you're truly present, your opponent becomes irrelevant. Because you're not reacting to them, you're responding to reality. You've merged with the moment. That's why he often fought with two swords, one in each hand, because he believed in balance, in adaptability, in not being limited by form or convention. Can you say the same about your thoughts? Or are you still clinging to mental habits that no longer serve you? Here's where it gets even deeper. Musashi's real enemy wasn't his opponents, it was himself. His early life was filled with arrogance, with inner chaos. But through solitude, through wandering, through intentional discomfort, he sharpened not just his blade, but his mind. He lived in caves, meditated, refused material wealth. Why? Because he understood that mastery begins in the inner world. And if your mind is a battlefield, you can't afford to be your own worst enemy. Overthinking is self-sabotage disguised as logic. Let's turn this toward you. What battle are you losing right now, not because you lack skill, but because you're paralyzed by thought? Maybe it's a decision you can't make, a conversation you keep avoiding, a dream you keep deferring, and you tell yourself, I'm just being careful. But Musashi would challenge you, are you being careful or are you being afraid? There's a difference. One protects life, the other prevents it. This brings us to one of the most misunderstood aspects of Musashi's teaching: do nothing which is of no use. On the surface, it sounds utilitarian, but it's actually existential minimalism. It means stripping away everything, every thought, every habit, every fear that doesn't serve your deepest purpose. It's not just about efficiency, it's about essence, living only from what is real. And when you live like that, overthinking has no place to hide, because everything becomes clear. Not easy, but clear. Musashi didn't just win duels, he ended them before they began. His presence was so intense, his calm so unnerving, that his opponents often lost before the first strike. That's what happens when you embody your philosophy. People can feel it. It's not about words, it's about weight. And that weight comes from living your truth so deeply that you no longer need to explain it. That's the secret. That's what overthinkers hate. They want answers before action. Musashi acted and found answers in motion. Now let's dig into the paradox. Musashi was a man of violence, yet his wisdom leads us toward peace. Why? Because when you live with presence, when you cut through illusion, when you stop battling your own mind, you stop needing to fight everything else. His way was not about aggression. It was about alignment. Alignment with nature, with circumstance, with reality. And when you're aligned, life flows. That's the ultimate irony. The more you let go, the more power you gain. Not control over others, but mastery over self. So here's the invitation. Stop thinking like a strategist. Start being like a strategist. Stop asking, what should I do? And start asking, what part of me is afraid to move? That's where the real battle lies. Not in the world, not in the opponent, but in the hesitation, the delay, the mental noise that says, you're not ready. Musashi's legacy isn't just in his victories, it's in his silence, the calm between strikes, the mind that had no room for clutter. Can you cultivate that? Not by force, but by focus. We live in a time where the most common sword is the mind, and most people are stabbing themselves with it daily. But you don't have to. You can put it down. You can observe it. You can choose presence over paralysis. And when you do, something shifts. Life becomes simpler. Not because it's less complex, but because you're no longer adding unnecessary complexity. That's the Musashi way, not just the way of the sword, but the way of clarity. The void strategy, how Musashi used emptiness to dominate not just battles, but thought itself. Miyamoto Musashi didn't just fight opponents, he fought illusions. And the greatest illusion he dismantled was that thought itself is the ultimate weapon. It isn't. Thought, when untamed, is noise. It's clutter. It's fog in the battlefield of life. What Musashi discovered, and what most people will never come close to grasping, is that real power comes not from thinking more, but from thinking less, from thinking clearly, and eventually from not thinking at all. This wasn't laziness, it was transcendence. He called it the void. In the Book of Five Rings, Musashi ends with a cryptic concept, the Book of the Void. And people skip over it. They read the flashy tactics in the fire and water books, the battle strategies, the sword techniques. But they missed the heart of his philosophy, that the highest level of mastery is emptiness. Not emptiness as in lacking, but emptiness as in openness. A mind so clear that it reflects reality without distortion. A mind that doesn't need to control because it's already aligned with the flow. Let's go deeper. Overthinkers cling to thoughts because they're terrified of the void. They equate silence with ignorance. But Musashi teaches us the opposite. The void is where wisdom begins. Why? Because in that emptiness, there is no ego, no fear, no projection, just awareness, pure, alert, grounded awareness. The kind that sees without judgment and acts without hesitation. That is the source of intuition. That is what you tap into when you stop needing to figure it out and start feeling the truth of the situation. Ask yourself this: what would it feel like to make decisions without fear, without spiraling, without second-guessing every thought until you're paralyzed by imaginary consequences? That's the void. Not numbness, not apathy, but the space where clarity lives. It's a state of being that doesn't come from adding more information, but from removing everything that's not essential. Overthinkers hate this because it strips away their armor. The armor of logic, analysis, justification. But that armor is heavy, and it doesn't protect you, it slows you down. Musashi didn't just train his sword, he trained his spirit. He spent years alone, not to isolate himself from the world, but to strip his mind of its false attachments. He learned to observe his emotions without being ruled by them. He practiced movement until it became second nature. He studied art, poetry, calligraphy, not to impress, but to refine his being. Every discipline was a doorway to the void. And through the void, he transcended the need for constant mental control. He became the moment. That's why his duels were so clean, so efficient. He didn't waste time anticipating or reacting. He simply responded to what was. No internal debate, no hesitation, just motion aligned with truth. And what about us? We spend entire days rehearsing conversations we'll never have, planning futures that never arrive, regretting pasts we can't change. All of it, noise. All of it, a refusal to live from the void. You don't need to be a swordsman to apply this. You just need to stop asking, what should I do? And start asking, what do I already know but am too afraid to trust? That's the ultimate lesson. The void is not empty, it's full of knowing. But it's not the kind of knowing you can explain. It's the kind you embody. Musashi embodied it. And that's why his presence was so powerful. He wasn't there to win a fight. He was there to express truth through action. That's what life can be when you stop overthinking. Not a performance, not a calculation, but a dance with reality, choreographed by presence and sharpened by courage. Cut once, cut clean. The samurai philosophy of decisiveness. In a world addicted to delay, we live in a world that delays everything. We delay decisions, delay conversations, delay our own growth, waiting for the right time, the perfect alignment of circumstances. But Musashi would have found this laughable or dangerous, because in the way of the sword, hesitation is death. There is no luxury of delay. You either act or you fall. You either cut clean or you get cut. And in that brutal clarity lies a profound philosophical truth. Decisiveness is not just a tactic, it's a way of being. Musashi didn't just make decisions quickly, he made them cleanly. That's a different kind of strength. Most people think decisiveness means rushing, but clean decisiveness is something else. It's clarity without clutter. It's motion without resistance. It's the ability to cut through the noise of options, debate, and fear, and land on a course of action that feels true, not just logical. And here's the part that overthinkers hate. The longer you wait to decide, the weaker your decision becomes. Because while you hesitate, fear inserts itself into the equation. It begins to cloud the water with what-ifs. Let me ask you something challenging. How many decisions in your life are still open, bleeding energy from your mind because you're afraid to commit to one path? You think indecision is keeping your options open, but really, it's keeping you stuck. Musashi's life teaches us that one clean cut is better than 1,000 mental rehearsals. You don't need perfect information. You need courage. Decisiveness doesn't mean you'll always be right. It means you're willing to take responsibility for being wrong. That's real power. Musashi once said, "You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain." Why is that so powerful? Because it dissolves the illusion of the perfect choice. It means that action matters more than perfection. You can overanalyze forever, waiting for the ideal moment, but the mountain doesn't care. It doesn't move. Either you start climbing or you don't. The path you choose matters far less than the fact that you choose. Do you see how liberating that is? It means you can stop waiting. You can start now. In modern life, the sword is replaced by opportunity, relationships, creativity. But the principle remains. You must learn to cut clean. That means ending what needs to be ended, saying what needs to be said, starting what needs to be started. Not with aggression, but with resolution. And this is where philosophy meets fire. Because it's not enough to understand the idea. You have to live it. You have to feel the weight of your own hesitation and ask, what am I protecting by not deciding, and is it worth the cost? The truth is, indecision is often a mask for fear of identity loss. You delay because choosing one thing means letting go of another. And letting go feels like death. But Musashi embraced that death. Every duel was a meditation on mortality. He faced it not once, but 60 times in battle, and countless more in solitude. He understood that to live fully, you must die to the versions of yourself that no longer serve. You must cut away what is false. That's the clean cut. That's real decisiveness. Not a flurry of action, but a sacred severing of what is no longer aligned. So here's the final challenge. What have you been delaying in your life? Not because you're unsure, but because you're afraid of the fallout. That's the place where the Musashi mindset can transform everything. Go there, stand in it, listen, then cut. Not with violence, but with clarity. Not to destroy, but to create space for what's next. Because in the end, the cleanest cut isn't the one that eliminates your opponent. It's the one that removes your own hesitation.